So I was born in Utah, in Murray, in Cottonwood Hospital, November 11th, 1995. And my parents are James Todd Baker and Diane Thacker Baker. And we lived in Murray and Sandy and Draper. I remember we lived in kind of this condo thing, and it was like a row of like little condos, and there was just like a kind of a driveway for the complex. And I remember we had one of those little plastic cars, like the red with the yellow top. And I remember playing in that with my parents and Carson, because Logan wasn't born yet. And yeah, I think I scraped my knee or something, but I remember that. And just, yeah, not very many memories of Utah, because we only lived here till I was 4, and then we moved to Georgia. So we moved to Georgia in either 2000 or 2001, and shortly after Logan was born. And we lived in Kennesaw, and it was a great place. It was a nice little place. We moved into the house new, and right across the street was Shane Battis, and we were best friends. We played outside every day. We played inside every day. We just hung out every day, basically since we met each other. I think we went to the same preschool, and we just like hung out like till the end of 5th grade, you know. Just always hanging out together. And I went to Kennesaw Elementary and then Big Shanty Intermediate, and it was great. I did Taekwondo, and it was just a fun time. It was not necessarily a small town, and it wasn't super big either. It was a good sized town, and there was stuff to do, but I was like 10 and 11, you know. But it was moving towards becoming kind of a bad town, and so we wanted to move, and we wanted a bigger house and a basement, and so we decided to move to Johns Creek. So when we moved to Johns Creek, that was in 2007, the summer of 2007. And I started in 6th grade. Like, we moved that summer after 5th grade, and then I started 6th grade in Johns Creek at Autry Mill Middle School. And it was good. I was in the band playing the oboe, and I was like getting involved in clubs and stuff, and just kind of figuring out who I was and who my friends would be. And I was bullied, and I can talk about that another time. But then in 8th grade at Autry Mill, I was the mascot. It was a ton of fun. I was the lion, and I just had a blast. I went into I became this different person when I put on the mascot suit. Just super high energy, super goofy, unless that's who I am regularly. But yeah, just playing around in the mascot suit at the volleyball games, at the basketball games, it was great. Then I went to Johns Creek High School, and that was a ton of fun. I stayed in band. I stayed playing the oboe, and I joined the marching band, playing the marimba in the pit and the cymbals in the stands, and that was a ton of fun. That was my family. That was my niche at Johns Creek High School, and so it was a lot of fun, and it was a good experience. I learned a lot. And I played marimba and the oboe for freshman and sophomore year. And then junior year, I switched to the bassoon, and I was given the position of drum major in the band, in the marching band. And that was a great opportunity, and I learned a lot about leadership. And I learned more about who I am and how I can help others become who they need to be. And at the end of junior year, I got a job at Great Harvest Bread Company, and I worked there through senior year, and it was good. I learned a lot. I don't ever want to work food service again, but it was a good experience. I started cleaning dishes at minimum wage, and then got small raises, like every 6 months or whatever. But then I was moved up to the register and selling the bread, and then I was on the sandwich cart making sandwiches and stuff, and it was stressful, but I did learn a lot, and I valued that experience. And yeah, Johns Creek was a great time. I made a lot of friends, met a lot of great people, great students, great teachers, and I guess kind of friendships and relationships that I want to maintain. In the Baker family, we love to travel, and we've visited a lot. We have visited a lot of the continental United States, and I think it was around 2004 that we went to Europe because the Dattels were living in the Netherlands, and we went to visit them, and then we went with them to tour France, the Netherlands, and Belgium. And that was a ton of fun. It was a good experience. I remember bits and pieces, like certain funny moments that we had with the Dattels on that trip. I remember the Eiffel Tower. I remember that on our elevator ride up, this sweet old French lady gave us all candy. And I remember seeing certain buildings in France specifically, and I remember the painting of the girl with pearl earrings that we saw at one of the museums there. And the tulips and the windmills of Belgium and Netherlands, and the dikes and stuff like that, just great experience, and I definitely want to go back in the future. I've been kind of related to travel with Boy Scouts. I've been to the Philmont Scout Ranch Reserve place in New Mexico, and we did a backpacking trip over 12 days, and it was 103 miles. And I did so with a sprained wrist and like a little brace on my wrist. And then for Scouts, we also did a canoeing trip in Canada, and that was great, just kind of jumping from lake to lake and moving on and stuff. That was a ton of fun. And then right before I went on my mission, we did a Bahamas sailing trip for Boy Scouts, just on like a 60-foot catamaran, and that was a blast. It was a great experience, a lot of fun, and yeah. And then senior year, my dad and we went to Brazil. We went to Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, and it was a ton of fun. Saw a lot of cool stuff, went around a bunch of the shops, and visited a bunch of people that he taught in his mission, and that was really special to me as I was preparing to go on my mission at the end after senior year. And just being able to see the lives he impacted and the relationships that he built and has maintained since his mission. And it was just a really good experience, being able to be kind of touristy, but also just really like soaking everything in. I guess like when I travel, I like to do the touristy things, like go to the museums, go to the tourist hotspots, like in Brazil, the Christ Redeemer statue. But I also like going and seeing kind of like what makes that country or that place what it is. And so, like really like visiting people. And that was really special to me when we went to Brazil, because we were able to visit these families that, some of them lived in small houses, kind of in close to rural areas, and some lived in small little apartments in a really urban area. And so it was really cool to see kind of what life is like in that country, not just what you see on the internet, but what their life is like. When you're driving down like this busted up cobblestone road, and you go in your gate and go through the gate to your property, and you have your little house, and all the doors are open, all the windows are open, and you're eating this great lunch, and then there's a light little rainstorm, and you're just sitting in there, and you still have all the doors and windows open, and it's just like a little refreshing rain for the area, and yeah, and you can hear the birds, you can hear a couple monkeys, and it's just like, it's a great experience to be able to not just go to the tourist locations and the museums, but to really soak in what makes that place what it is. And I want to go back to Europe, and that was something that we were kind of able to do on the Boy Scout Bahamas trip. And then I've been on 2 cruises, a Carnival cruise to the Caribbean and a Royal Caribbean cruise to the Caribbean. And the Royal Caribbean one, that was for school for band. And that was great, so much fun. We had a blast, and cruises are awesome. And through traveling, that kind of brought up this, I guess, desire in me. I mean, definitely to travel more, but also, like, I love flight, and I want to get my private pilot's license one day. And that's kind of started because of, all the plane rides we would take, and I guess what kind of sealed it for me was in the Boy Scout Canada canoeing trip. We flew into Minnesota, I think, and then we rented some cars and drove up into Canada. And so we get to the base camp that's like right next to this gold mine. And so, like an actual gold mine. And so, like, there are all these workers working there over the summer, while it's not cold and whatnot, and I'm sure they work in the cold too. But it was just really good, and it was this tiny little place. Like, they had a diner. It was like half diner, half convenience store, and just for the workers and whatnot. And so we're staying at this base camp for a night or 2 nights, I think, and then, like, we're getting ready to go that one morning, and we get out and we go down to this little dock, and then I hear a plane, and in comes this float plane, this nice big, like, blue float plane. And it was amazing. And so we're, like, loading all our gear in and, like, putting up the cargo nets and stuff like that. And everyone gets in, and I get in, and the only seat left is, like, in the cockpit, like the co-pilot seat, basically. And that was amazing. That was super cool. And so, like, we took off, and we were flying over to this lake, and then we landed. And just being basically shotgun in this float plane, that's really what, that was the moment where I said, and I think I said it out loud, I'm like, I want to fly. And just kind of that weightless, happy feeling, and being able to just look out and see everything. That was just amazing, and I still I can visualize that, and it was just a great experience. And that's what I think about when I think about flight and traveling, and how I want to get my private pilot's license so I can experience that again and again, and share that with others. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my grandparents on the Baker and on the Thacker side. Right now it's April 2017, and Maurice Baker, Grandpa Baker, is still alive. And since Grandma Baker died, since Laura Baker died, he has remarried Audrey, and she's really nice. But I wanted to kind of share memories I have of both sets of grandparents, because Grandma Baker and Grandpa Thacker have passed away. And so I guess I'll kind of go in this order. So Grandma Baker, she was really sweet. She was a lover of Disney, and she was really good. She was a very strong woman. Not in stature, but good, strong-willed, and determined. And she did a lot of good for those around her. She was very involved with the school board, and she was always very active in her community. And because she knew how she could make a difference, and she did it. And I remember when she and Grandpa Baker would visit, she would help my mom. She would spend time with us and play games with me and my brothers, and that was always very special. She would always make great food, and she loved making her home beautiful. Their backyard was always very beautiful, and inside as well. And she was just a very good woman, a good grandmother, a good mother, and yeah, very strong. And she passed away September 10th, 2011, 9/10/11. I remember that, yeah. And so she passed away first. That was the first death I've kind of experienced. And it didn't really hit me because, you know, we would see her probably like every other summer or every 2 years, you know, and every summer or every other summer. And you know, we would call, and she would send birthday cards, you know. But when she passed away, I think part of it, like why I guess I didn't react a ton, is because of the testimony I have in the Plan of Salvation. But also it's like we were close, and I had a good relationship with her, but you know, like the distance does play into it. And it didn't hit me until like we went to Utah for the funeral, and we were with family. We were at Grandpa's house, and she wasn't there. Or no, I think we were staying in a hotel that weekend. Yeah, we were staying in a hotel. But we were, you know, we would spend the day at Grandpa's house, you know, with our cousins, and then it didn't hit me until the family viewing, the private viewing. You know, like seeing her in the casket, that's when it really hit me. And then it was really special when there was kind of a memory video of kind of the memory of her life, and that was really special too. And then right before I left on my mission in August 2014, so I left August 20th, and that was a Wednesday, and exactly a week before that, the Wednesday before, Grandpa Thacker died, Harry Thacker. And he had dementia, and he was just old too. And he was great. I have memories of him showing me little tricks where he'd like separate his thumb, you know, and he was always great with stories, and he loved a bonanza. That was his jam. And super loud sneezes. He loved playing games. He loved playing with the grandkids. He was just a fun guy. I remember when he came and visited Georgia one time, I think it was around the time when Logan was born, or maybe after, but he taught me this. So I still remember that, and I kind of think of him when I do that for little kids. And when I was in the MTC, my mom sent me all the kind of material, all the talks and stuff from his funeral that they went to. So I left on Wednesday, and that weekend after I left to the MTC, so like a week and a half after he passed away was the funeral. So that they sent me all the talks, and it was really special to see and read about my grandpa kind of before I knew him, because it's like I was little and I knew him, but I was little. And then, you know, as I kind of started understanding was when the dementia kind of started kicking in more and more. But he carried on a good legacy of faith, family, and service. And he was always willing to help others and sacrifice of his time and himself to serve those around him and do what's best. He left a very stable, very, very profitable profitable job to move to Arizona and be a school teacher. And that made a difference, and that was a struggle for their family, but they got through it, and they overcame that struggle, and it turned out for the better. It was what needed to happen, whether they knew it or not. And then while I was in the MTC, I think it was within 30 days of his passing that my grandma Thacker, Leah Thacker, passed away. And she is a very strong woman as well, very caring and very loving. And I remember, when Logan was born, she and my grandpa Thacker came and helped my mom out. And whenever she would visit, she'd always leave us with like a freezer full of her raisin cinnamon rolls, and those are so delicious. But she, very funny, loved games as well, and yeah, just very sweet. And she had what she called the grandma's apron. So it was just like an apron from Hobby Lobby or whatever. And she sewed pockets onto it, and she had different things in it, like cute Band-Aids or lollipops or Smarties, or little toys. And it was really fun, and my mom really liked that idea, and she's kind of made a company off of it called Josie's. And so it's just a special experience and kind of something that's close to us that we want to share with others and give other people the opportunity to experience as well with their loved ones. And so that's the Thacker grandparents and Laura, and then Maurice, my grandpa Baker. He's a great man, very very smart, very strong. And he was a doctor. He practiced for I think over 50 years, and he loves learning. And I feel like he's a good example, of the gospel principle that the glory of God is intelligence. And even now he's in his 80s and he still reads medical journals. He just got recertified for the boards, so technically he could still practice. He just a very smart man, always loving to learn, and he's really my last grandparent, and so I think it will be interesting when he passes. I've gotten close to him as I've lived here in Utah, and so I think that will be very interesting. But very very good man as well. He teaches correct principles and doctrine, and lets you govern yourself. And my dad has learned a lot from him, and I hope to kind of carry on the legacy that they've both established and set forth. So I served as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Arizona Tucson mission, speaking Spanish, and it was great. It was amazing. It was one of the best experiences of my life. And my mission president, President David Passy, and his wife Beth Passy, they were both amazing people. And they've impacted me a lot, and I know that they've impacted the mission in that area as well. And they were a good example for me, and I learned a lot from President Passy. And something that was also important to me was the things that I learned from bishops and branch presidents and other leaders while I was on my mission. That was very important, and I'm very grateful for what I learned there as well. And I just wanted to talk a little bit. The Ortiz family is probably the most important family to me for my mission. I baptized Penelope and Victor, the husband. Penelope's the daughter. And this past February, I was able to go to Arizona and watch them be sealed together in the temple. And that was a very special experience for me. And I didn't, Penelope was my first baptism, and that happened after I hit 18 months, or probably right around my 18-month mark. And that was hard for me. I remember right before I went to that area, I had an interview with President Passy, and I was like, what's going on? But I needed to learn to be humble. And I learned that after Jose was progressing, and then he just dropped us. I was so excited to finally have a baptism. But I guess thinking back on it now, I realized that in that situation, I was kind of prideful about it. I was like, yes, I finally get a baptism. Like, this is what makes me successful. And then, after he dropped us, it's like, wait, no, that doesn't decide who is successful. We taught, we invited, we committed, and we did everything we were supposed to. And he used his agency to decide otherwise, but we were successful. And then shortly after was when we found Penelope, and we started teaching her. And then we baptized her, and I had the opportunity to baptize her. And then we taught Victor, and that was just a special experience. And from the beginning of my mission, all I ever wanted was, when I get a baptism, I want them to stay. I want them to be strong and stay in the gospel. And with the Ortiz family, I feel like I've found that, and that they have found that, and they've achieved that for themselves.